In today's video, I'm going to talk about the underutilized 8 to 9 figure scaling strategy that 99.99% of brands actually fail to understand. I'm going to get into the strategy in just a second. Before I do, let me show you just one quick thing. In case you do not know who I am, my name is Brando. I actively work with 8-figure brands, 7-figure brands. This is just one of our own clients, just so you understand the type of caliber of clients that we're typically used to working with, and the data that we have access to that yesterday alone did over $100,000 in sales. Let me just refresh so you know this is real. Now that we got the proof out of the way, let's get right into the video. Now, there's many different ways to scale a brand, okay? I'm not gonna say that there's just one way to scale. There's many different ways. It depends also from verticals. Every vertical is a niche, an industry is kind of like has its own way of scaling in some way, shape, or form. But of course, after working with over 100 brands in the last 6 to 7 years, there's one way that we've really kind of utilized in these last 3, 4, 5, 6 years that has really drastically worked and helped us, especially in saturated markets. So this video is maybe specifically for you if you maybe have a good product, or your product has maybe slightly of a unique value proposition compared to the competition, but you are going after like a super saturated market. In fact, if you are going after a saturated market, you are a smart man or gal, because it means that you understand that those markets, even if they are saturated and kind of like red oceans, they have potential. So everybody, the girls on YouTube say, hey, don't go after saturated markets. You should go after saturated markets, but with a specific strategy and framework. And this is exactly what I'll be discussing. And so I'm going to be discussing how to scale with avatar customers, specific avatar customers. And I'm going to be first, before I go into the strategy on a deeper level, I'm going to first address how most people approach scaling in a specific saturated industry or vertical or market, call it whatever you want. In this example, we're just going to take one of the most, markets that have the biggest potential, which is the US market. And so most people would go after targeting very, very broad avatar customers, like a Sally that is 40-year-old who has back pain. You have an idea of how many Sallys who are 40-year-olds who have back pain there are in the United States of America, and how many people and competitors, direct competitors of your competition, maybe selling similar products or even completely different products, but that solve the same exact problem, are going after this specific avatar. This means that this is essentially you, this little gray dot, hopeless dot, trying to compete in this extremely competitive and really, really expensive saturated market. And so we're getting into a situation now that unless you are maybe a 9-figure brand and you have the leverage and you have the pixel and you have the customer and you essentially have the data to be able to go after these competitive markets, even then it's becoming hard. Even if you are a big brand, it's kind of becoming really hard. And so we've taken this approach where we take a completely different approach and go after super specific avatar customers. And I have like really specific examples to show you. Just to not repeat myself too much over here, but what ends up happening if you go with this like short tail saturated markets, the CPMs are higher. That's why when you launch a skincare brand targeting everybody in the United States, typically your CPMs are like $90, $150, $200. It's because every single person in the world is going and competing against you. What if you could find your own little sub-market that is maybe composed of like 10 advertisers or 20 advertisers instead of like 1,000 advertisers? Do you think CPMs would be lower or higher? Of course they'll be lower, because you're competing against less people. And so this is also very hard to scale because you have high CPMs, and your cost per acquisition, your CAC, is just typically really, really hard and high, sorry. And so this is you. The alternative method, which is how 8, 9-figure brands are really getting into utilizing this strategy, is going after having a crystal clear idea of who your customer is, meaning they have a specific advertorial offer, entire sales process specifically to one avatar customer that is not a Sally who has back pain, but it's an example, a Sally who was 40-year-old, who is a nurse and works 12-hour shifts and has chronic back pain. She needs a solution right now to show up to work healthy and be there for her kids when she is back home. So this is a specific avatar customer. Okay, one thing to note, and this is how it looks like, right? Red ocean, because we're still going after back pain, really, really saturated, red red ocean kind of like, market. But we have dissected and found a TAM, an industry, an addressable market that is maybe worth 500 to $1 billion, right? This is maybe worth, $1 trillion or 59, $100 billion. Huge market. But what if we find that 1%, even that 1% of $1 billion is still $100 billion is still $1 billion, right? And so what if you get 1% of that? That's still, I don't know what the math is, but I think it's like $10 million or something like that. So with one avatar, you have a $10 million business by getting 1% of that market, which is really realistic. And so this is how you have to start thinking about that. And what happens when you want to scale, right? And you want to just scale a bit more horizontally and maybe build another 8-figure avatar to it. You scale it like this, horizontally. So you go after the same back pain, but maybe after going after nurses, you go after construction workers that are dealing with maybe even major back pains, right? Or you're going after moms who are essentially holding babies for 16 hours a day and they have back pain because of that, right? Or pregnant moms because they have back pain even if they're not holding their baby in their hands, they have it in their belly, right? And so they also have back pains. And so you can basically create a brand. And if you don't want to create a brand, you can create funnels, personalized funnels that are coherent to one specific avatar. This is so important. Let me ask now, what I'm going to do here before I get into this further, I have like 4 examples of avatar customers, right? That we can tap into. I basically just invented this avatar customer. I invented the product, and I also kind of invented a sales process that is congruent to this avatar customer, so you can kind of see how this kind of works, and you can implement this for your own brand using the same framework. So I'm going to give you 4 examples, and then I'm going to wrap it up with something else, a cool concept of how brands are actually scaling to 9 figures with this avatar approach. Now, let's talk about avatar number 1. 40-year-old Sally, nurse, has kids. Due to her back pain, she can't show up 100% to work. Same exact example that I shared above. In this case, the product is like a back pain strip for any individual. So the product in itself is like broad, but we're going specific, hyper-targeted with the ad. And so this is an example of an ad, right? An ad could be about a nurse who is going through like a crazy story about how she has back pain showing at work. And also I did some research that typically nurses have like these like 15-minute intervals where they just sit on their phone. This could maybe be an UGC ad of a real nurse sitting on like in the hospital having a 15-minute break. Say, hey, I have a 15-minute break. I'm dealing with this back pain, but this product has really helped me. So I'm looking at like a UGC type of sales process. And so once again, people ask me, by the way, as a side note, what are the best types of ads that work? What are the best types of landing pages that work? That's like a question that says, it's like, does e-commerce work? It's like such a broad question that it doesn't make sense to answer. And the reason it doesn't make sense to answer is because you should tailor your sales process based on who you are targeting, your avatar customer. If your avatar customer is 20-year-olds that just don't resonate with like a super raw, slow-paced 3-4 minute UGC ad, then it's maybe not the right ad for you, but maybe it works for Bob on the right that does $12 million a year or a month, and it works for him because of his different avatar customer. Who knows, right? So you can't say this works, that doesn't. It has to be tailor-made to your avatar. Next thing is an advertorial. This would be like an ideal sales process for this avatar. An advertorial going like through the storytelling of how she went from a 9 out of 10 to a 3 out of 10 back pain, back pain. So she's going through her story and then organically presenting the product, and then maybe it goes to another sales page specifically geared and branded towards nurses, and explaining features, benefits, product specs, contextualizing to 40-year-old Sally, who is a professional nurse, and then the product page and offer with a naming convention, specifically with nurses, right? So this is like a super personalized funnel specific to avatar. Now, with this in mind, do you think selling to somebody who has back pain in general would work better or worse? And send them into like maybe a product page would work better or worse compared to like a nurse who has back pain, who can't show up to work, and leveraging all those angles and also creating a specific sales process to the Sally? Which one do you think would work? or have the highest conversion rate potential? Of course, this one. If you don't agree with me, I don't know what to tell you, but this is how it works. Next persona, 48-year-old Sally that cannot get rid of her flappy arms despite her working out every day. And let me add to it, I've also gone through this example several times in my other videos. This example is basically also to the 40-year-old Sally who cannot get rid of fat and get rid of flappy arms and basically lose weight to get rid of the bat wings because she's already skinny. And so this is like a perfect example of an avatar that is like has a huge TAM. How many 48-year-olds do we know in the United States that are 48 and that are pretty skinny and can't lose further weight? And all of them have flappy arms, because basically all 40, 50, 60-year-old women have flappy arms, okay? Who has more, who has less? It's like a huge market potential. So this is an example of a big TAM. One thing to remember here is that you can go and go deep into the trenches of choosing the avatar customer. But if it's too specific and the TAM is not big enough, meaning that the addressable market is just like 20,000 people. Let's just say you're going after pro athletes only. There's like 20,000 pro athletes in the United States. That market alone, unless you get like 100% of it, it's not really scalable. You understand what I mean? So even if you go specific, make sure that it's specific enough, but also has a good, TAM, addressable market. And so in this example, we're going after Sally, once again, that is skinny. She can't lose weight and she can't get rid of flappy arms. And so in this example, I was thinking of doing like a sales process where the hook is like with a trainer or personal trainer, which would normally sell maybe a training program. And with further research, maybe we realize that Sally is tired of seeing these personal trainers promoting ads to her, telling her to lose weight and go through this like fitness program, because that doesn't actually help her by getting rid of the flappy arms that she has under her arms. And so a perfect maybe angle or something worth testing is a trainer speaking about the fact that she has 400 patients or customers or clients, call them whatever you want, and all of them, even if she has them do like workouts to get rid of these like fleshy, flappy arms, they don't work. And so she finally found a solution to help her clients. And so you see how it's like resonating with Sally because she sees like other personal trainers promote like fitness programs, but this personal trainer is just being honest and promoting maybe something else that is not a fitness program, which is what Sally is being promoted to on a daily basis. You see how that is a different frame. And so you can basically hook with a personal trainer, and then you take away the tension because they're saying something else and not selling a program. And then maybe the personal trainer sends the mic over to like a dermatologist that is specialized on like toning skin, something like that. I don't know. This is just an example. And then you go with like an advertorial or case study, like a relatable story, and then a product page specific to like a lifting device. As you can see, like this arm lifting device wasn't even an arm lifting device like a month ago. It was like for the face. So this brand is actually leveraging the different features and benefits of the product and promoting it with different angles based on the persona that they have in front, right? In this example, the product is a fat toner used on specific body parts. This alone, like 5 years ago, this product so saturated. This product was sold to do like lifts on the cheekbones, and now they're using it for their ass. I mean, that's where like marketing can get into the weeds and kind of like a bit skeptical here and there. But I mean, you can leverage marketing to build a 9-figure company, honestly, if you know what you're doing. The ethics part of it is a whole different argument that I'm not gonna get into right now in this video. So, okay, next avatar, 47-year-old Jenny, who has dark spots postpartum, and she just had a baby, and she wants to look good again after her baby. And so the product is like a dark spot skincare solution. So very saturated solutions in itself. But because we're going after a 47-year-old Jenny, postpartum, right? Specific pain point, specific situation. Also, if you can find an avatar that is like contextually in a situation that she just cannot fix, right? An example of something you can fix is like you're fat, you can lose weight, right? you don't have abs, you can work out and do abs, right? An example of something you're just stuck is like if you have menopause, you have menopause. If you just had a baby, you just had a baby. You're going through that phase. There's nothing you can do to go back and change your situation. So if your avatar has this kind of like situation where they're just stuck and they've tried solutions and yours is presented in a different way and specific to them, postpartum moms, how many postpartum moms are there? There's a lot. There's millions. Okay, there's millions of babies. And by the way, you can have postpartum moms, people that just had the baby, or people that had the baby like 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. They still have the dark spots. Okay, my mother still has a dark spot, and she had me like 20 plus years ago, right? And so, this is something that works. And by the way, I had this example because I did a research that says after you have your baby, your skin changes and it becomes a lot more delicate. And so we can have maybe a doctor ad here talking about how common it is for 20-year-olds it is to feel okay. Dr. ad talking about how common it is to feel 20 years older once you deliver your baby. The skin is like first thing that breaks out and shows the pain of postpartum women, increasing the sensitivity of their skin, and anything, even a mosquito bite, turns into a dark spot. Dark spot is basically when your skin becomes like darker. So even like you cut yourself a little bit, or there's a mosquito bite, or there's a pimple. Even the pimple, like you can see the dark spot after it's over, right? That's a huge deal for women. And so then maybe we can go to an storytelling advertorial of how Jenny went from having dark spots all the time to now getting her skin back before she delivered her baby, right? And so maybe within a timeline of just like 30 to 50 days or 60 days, something reasonable. And so you see how I'm creating a whole sales process just specifically to this Jenny postpartum. And then the direct offer could be like only for moms, this and that. You get the point. Okay, we actually have a client right now where we're doing this dark spot offer, but for black women, especially because black women suffer dark spots, seems like based on research, on a much deeper level. And so we're going after specific avatars, but that still have an addressable like millions of people, right? How many black women are there in the United States? Like a lot. Okay, and so let's go through one last example. Avatar customer is a 30-year-old Bob who has lower back pain. By I'm not sure what I wrote here, he is spending 10 plus hours a day sitting down at a desk. So the product would be a lower back chair device to help her, to help with back pain. And so here is maybe like we can do once again, we're not going after lower back pain, Bob. We're going after somebody who is sitting for 10 hours a day. You know how many people have back pain? People that run, people that sit down, people that do sports, people, I don't know, I'm just kind of inventing. There's a lot of people with the coming of age naturally, right? Because they had surgery, because they have babies. There's so many avatars and angles of which you can approach the marketing with. So this is an example, maybe like a raw UGC ad, having a raw conversation of how his job is essentially killing him due to a sedentary life, and he feels like 30 years older the moment he stands back up to go back home. So he organically introduces the solution and demos the product, showing how it works and how much relief it gives in his back, right? Maybe this is like a heating pad that you can put on the bottom of your back pain while you sit on your chair, and it kind of gives you an instant relief, right? And so here then we have a storytelling of how Bob went from a 9 out of 10 lower back pain to a 2 out of 10 in just 2 weeks because of this instant natural healing device that instantly relieves back pain. And then the direct offers, like direct offer to Bob, the sedentary 30-year-old Bob dealing with lower back pain because he's sitting down 10 hours a day on work on his computer. Maybe he's coding, right? Doing like something like that. You get the point, okay? And so how do these brands essentially see these brands at scale to 10 million? There's pretty much a couple ways to do it. You either go like super broad with your targeting, but your funnel is like super specific. So maybe you're going after, there's like a quiz funnel. So you go after broad markets. Once again, you can only do this, in my opinion, based on my experience, if you already entered the market. If you have like a multi 7-8 figure brand and you already enter the market, then you can go after like more competitive avatars, and because you have your share in the market, you have a bit of brand awareness, and you have pixel and the ad account that is purely seasoned, and you're ready to like go after these. But in most cases, even if you have the leverage, it's really becoming expensive just because there's so many marketers out there. And so there's many ways to do this, but the way that I prefer, this is what most brands do. They just do a couple avatars, a couple angles, and then they just kind of reach the ceiling at like a 500K a month, a million a month, maybe. In many cases, even less. The way that 8-figure brands, or 9-figure brands, I should say, scale aggressively to like 10 million a month, or along those lines, 5, 7, 10 million a month, is they basically do the exact same process, but they scale it horizontally with different avatars, and many different angles that are testing. As you can see here, the brand is maybe testing like 2 or 3 angles each, and here they're basically going all in on multiple other angles. And then way more, these are orange things, are like iterations. So they're doing avatars, angles, and many iterations on those angles and on those avatars. And then they're sending and funneling down. This is like a funnel. Like, so they basically have like a whole avatar 1 funnel, a whole avatar 2 funnel. I'm not sure why I'm pulling it down, but that's my idea of a funnel. And so essentially doing this on steroids, and scaling it horizontally. You get the point, and you get how these are like businesses. This is like one business. This is not, it's not really another business, but you can kind of see it like buckets of cash flow and a different business. And so this is the way brands are scaling right now. Hopefully this makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions about this topic. This is a really, really important topic. It's also something that we're implementing with our clients, and it's just working. I think it's just a matter of time. You just have to be smart at doing research, identifying your avatar, making sure the avatar has an addressable market that is scalable in the first place. And then it's just a matter of time between finding the right avatar and the right angle, and building that sales process that really pumps in revenue and has high revenue per visitors and is really scalable and profitable and not too expensive to promote too. Right? And so that is it for this video. I do have one quick giveaway. If you are a brand, that is scaling and you want to basically systematize your processes and systems, this is a sheet that we use. I give it away in all my videos. It's a creative testing tracker. Every single test that we put onto the ad account, we also put over here. We track angle, emotion, avatar, hook, messaging, the copy we use, the creatives, and then we track the status, the results of the ad, the cost per clicks, hook rates, hold rates, and then we also write learnings. And so this is how we're able to track hit rate. In this case, for this client, we have a 12% hit rate. You get the point. This is a demo, so get it. There's also so many other things like a daily report, a testing tracker, creative concepts, visual, CRO, storyboards. There's so many things. So get it. It's free. There's a link down below. I believe it's the third link down below. Okay, that is it for this video. If you are a brand, by the way, doing at least $100,000 a month, plus or minus, and you want to have an audit with us to explore the opportunity of working with us, have us do this maybe avatar strategy that works well, and just overall have an audit so we can explore the opportunity of working together, click the link below. There's, I know for a fact, the first link in the description is going to help you book a call. And that is it. See you on the call, and definitely see you in the next video. Bye.